Hello my beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm very excited to do because I'm going to be playing with the newly launched Nomad Okavango Safari eyeshadow palette. I'm going to show you 3 look tutorials, and the makeup look that's on my eyes today is going to be one of the looks. And at the end of the video I will give you my first impression, final thoughts on the palette. In today's video I also do have a surprise for you, so make sure you stick to the end to know what it is. And as per usual, there are timestamps for your convenience underneath this video to navigate through. So this Nomad Okavango Safari palette was just recently launched, and the packaging is so beautiful. It's nice and thin. It has a fabric coating and very nice on touch. When you open, there's a full-size mirror, and we have 15 pan eyeshadow palette. So the palette came with a little card that also had a message from the co-founders. There are 9 majestic mattes, 3 stunning shimmers, and 3 animal print shimmers swirls encased in a soft touch leopard print palette. So the palette retails for $42. It was made in Nomad Labs in China, and it has a 12-month shelf life. So when I saw some of the hints on the palette and I saw a few of the neutral shades, I knew this was going to be my first palette. So it is my very first palette from Nomad Cosmetics, and I definitely wanted to try something from the brand for a very long time. You know, I'm a huge neutrals lover. However, I also enjoy some beautiful colorful looks at times, and a combination of those two. I also wanted to mention that I do have a promo code. It's not an affiliated code with a Nomad. It is EVE10 that would help you save 10% off of your purchase. All my promo codes are always in the info box and also in the header of my Instagram. Now let's get into makeup look tutorials. So I think the way this palette is organized, I can definitely get more creative with this, but I think for the first try out, I really want to go into rows. I think for the first look, I'm gonna just try out this row of warm shades, and let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna start with this shade right here on my Alter Ego number 6 brush. This shade is called Towering Giraffes. This shade so far blends like a dream. It is true to color. It's, again, this is my very first initial interaction with the palette or with the brand. I haven't tried anything from the brand. I also love these brushes from Alter Ego. They are very nicely shaped, and they're also very soft. Well, I really like this shade so far, and I really enjoy the formula. It's really easy to blend. With my Alter Ego number 7 brush, and I'm gonna go into this next matte shade called Elusive Leopards, and I'm gonna start building up this crease a little bit. Beautiful shade again, blends into the previous shade very seamlessly and easily. I love everything that I'm seeing so far. No issues. I barely put any pressure on the eyeshadow or effort into blending. It just kind of blends itself. I'm gonna do the same shade on the bottom. This is an Alter Ego number 9 brush. On the Cinch Beauty EO5, I'm going into this brown matte shade called Pack of Wild Dogs. I feel like it's a little bit on a drier side, but it does build up really nicely and it blends really nicely. A small smudger brush, I'm adding the same shade to my lower lash line. This shade, I appreciate that it is buildable. This is one thing that I do enjoy about eyeshadows. I'm gonna mix these 2 shades together. I'm gonna start with this beautiful shade that look like a tiger. Look at this fiery shade. Wow. These are both of the shades that I'm gonna be mixing on my lid. Look at this reflect. This is up my liking. This is what I like. Wow, impressive on the swatches. Let's see how it's gonna be on the eye. So I'm gonna pick up this shade on my flat brush. Now that I'm picking it up, there's absolutely no fallout. It almost feels very creamy. I have a feeling that I might need to use my finger. Let's see if it's gonna go on the lid. It does go on the lid, but it's definitely not the same effect as when I picked it up with my finger. But so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of place it where I want it, and then I'm going to intensify it with my finger. And I'm going to apply it here. Yes, definitely. Very big difference. Now goes with a very nice foily effect. Beautiful. I cleaned off my flat brush and a color switch, and I'm going to go into this shade next. This feels very similar on the pickup too. Kind of has this creaminess to it and no fallout, absolutely. Let's see if it's going to work the same way on the lid. Yeah, it seems like it's applying the same way, so I'm actually going to use my pinky and tiny bit and apply here, blend into the previous shade. Yeah, it looks really nice in the inner corner, nice and reflective. I'm gonna go back with a very small brush, go into this deepest bronze shade that we applied. It's called A Pack of Wild Dogs. I would love to re-intensify this area a little bit. I just want this outer corner to be a little bit more defined. This is a finished look with mascara and eyeliner on the waterline. And these are all the 5 shades from the first row that I used. On this other look, I am gonna work with this row of shades. I'm gonna try to use all of them. It's a really nice, cool tone color story, but I'm really excited about these shimmers. So I'm gonna go into this first shade right here, Crush of Rhinos, and I'm using Oden's Eye FR1. I'm gonna start placing this into my crease and blending out. On a Cinch EO2, I am going with this next shade. It looks beautiful in gray. I love me a good gray matte shade. It's going to be the same concept of the look, just with the first one. Very simple, from lighter matte shades to darker, just building up that intensity. Let me do a lower lash line. I think I'm gonna go into these 2 shades together. Start from the lighter one, see how it's gonna go in my lower lash line. And again, the same consistent formula that with the rest of the matte shades that I've tried so far. So I think I'm liking this, and I'm gonna go into this shade right here. Picking up this shade on my Morphe M506. I would love to build up this outer corner. Oh wow, nice. That is beautiful pigment. Beautiful. Let me go ahead and blend that out. Now let's go into these 2 shimmers. Look at these. Since I already have this on my finger, I'm just gonna go with my finger here. It's creamy on the pickup, but I feel like it picks up on the finger much better. This silver is so beautiful. Now I want to see if I can pick up some of that silver shade only on a tiny brush. It definitely works, but you would need a really, really tiny brush. So you only pick up 1 shade out of 2. Yeah, it just needs a little bit of precision, but it would be easier just to pick maybe like a highlighter in there. Guys, this is the finished look. These are all the shades that I used for this look, the entire row. I used the e.l.f. No Budge eyeshadow in the shade Plateau. It's really nice and brown for my eyeliner on my lid, on my upper lid. And then I used a Tattoo Studio from Maybelline gel eyeliner in the shade Sparkling Silver to put this in the inner corner and draw here and blended it out a little bit with a small pencil brush. And this pencil I applied also on my waterline. I think it pulled this entire look together. So let me know what you think. For this final look, I'm gonna start working on this eye. I'm gonna start with this NYX blending brush, and I think I'm gonna go into the shade, this shade right here. It's called Marmy Game Reserve. Very beautiful shade and builds up really nicely. By the way, I had my eyelid primed with the Alter Ego primer, and then I'm gonna go into this beautiful shade right here called Vambura Plains. What a beautiful shade. I'm just gonna put it all over my lid, you guys. Slightly blended into the transition shade that we had placed. Very beautiful shade, just like this on its own. Very, very pretty. And there's really no fallout under my eye either, so that's great. I think I'm also gonna do a little bit of this shade on the outer corner called Chief's Island. I'm gonna use my Morphe M506 brush. Maybe I'll mix both of these on my upper lid. Let's see what happens. So I'm going with the shade Keystone Termites first. It's a little bit deeper. Nile Crocodile, this shade feels a little bit drier on touch. I definitely get a good amount of fallout here. And then Nile Crocodile is gonna go on this portion of my eye. Oh, so beautiful. Actually, it is more reflective than the previous shade. I feel like the Keystone Termites This one is a little bit more subtle. Okay guys, I finished the makeup look. Not only my face, but I also ended up finishing up on the eye, and I'm gonna show you exactly what I did on this eye. So I thought I would do a combination of neutrals with this look, and I am going with this shade first. It's called Towering Giraffes. I layer it a good amount. This is a pretty light shade on me, however, it does layer really nicely. And then I'm gonna go into my small smudger brush and going into this shade right here called Pack of Wild Dogs. Really nice, warm, dark brown matte. And I'm gonna deepen out this lower lash line. And then I'm taking a small pencil brush and I'm gonna go into this beautiful shade. It's called Roaring Lions. It is a very firmly pressed formula, and I feel like I'm getting a little bit of a hard pan here, but I still am managing picking it up on a brush, and I am placing it right in my inner corner. Initially, I wasn't really sure about putting a deeper shade into my inner corner. I don't think I've really done anything like this on camera, but I'm really loving how this look came out like that. And this shade has a really nice reflect to it. It's very smooth shimmer. It does almost have like a foil effect, even though it is pretty firmly pressed eyeshadow brush. This is a number 11 pencil brush from Alter Ego brush set, and it's really nice and dense brush, so this picks up this shade pretty well. I'm loving this, and I'm gonna drag this a little bit on my lower lash line too, just tiny bit. On my eyelashes, I'm using this Stila Huge Extreme Lash Mascara, and on my waterline, I am using this e.l.f. No Budge Cream Eyeshadow in the shade Plateau. I think this product is awesome. I know it didn't get a good rep as an eyeshadow base or an eyeshadow, but I use this as my eyeliner and my waterline. Okay guys, this is the finished look. I like the combination of neutrals and a little bit of color. That inner corner shade was definitely an unexpected choice, even for me, but I think it came out really fun. It definitely gives me like the safari vibe. So I used all these shades. This basically was the entire row of greens. So now I wanted to show you a few of the palette comparisons, and I will start from the main one because I've received a lot of questions. I've already put these two palettes together in my Natasha Denona YUCCA palette makeup look tutorials and initial thoughts video. That video is already live on my channel. At first I thought they were more similar. At that moment I hadn't tried the Nomad palette yet. At first they do look similar, but when you look closer, they're really not really similar. Natasha Denona have more pops of color. There's more brightness to it. The shimmers in Natasha Denona palette, they're these 4 special shimmers. The sparkling foils, they are very, very sparkly, very foily, very reflective, and I think they're very unique and hard to compete with. Nomad palette definitely has more deeper shades, like this row right here, this corner right here is really nice and smoky, so I do appreciate the depth in the palette. And in Natasha Denona, I really love this very unique, very bright summery shade, and Nomad palette doesn't really have that bright inner corner, that lighter shade that you would put in the inner corner. In my very last video, I created a look with Natasha Denona YUCCA palette, and the look came out quite similar to what I have on my eyes today. It's not the same, but it's quite similar. So if you wanted to see how I created that look, I will link that video below for you to check out. At first, these two palettes definitely resemble each other, but once you start pulling apart shade by shade, both of these palettes, you notice there's quite a bit of difference. So my advice to you within these two, I would say, if you love your bright, smooth, super sparkly shimmers, Natasha Denona is the way to go. But if you love really nice, comfortable, like pigmented mattes, this is a really good palette. This has the traditional matte formula that's nicely pigmented, blendable. Everything blends, packs together separately. Very beautiful matte formula in this Nomad palette. I was impressed. Another palette that I thought of is also a newly launched from Oden's Eye. There's definitely a resemblance, but I feel like Stone and Rock palette has a black shade and a white shade. You definitely get your inner corner. I feel like the greens are a little bit more muted on this palette right here in Oden's Eye, and this shade is the only one that's kind of like a mid-tone. Everything else seemed to be a little bit deeper. This palette does not have that many neutrals. If you look at it, it's primarily more of the green palette, if you will. I picked up both of these Autumn's Eye palettes. These are still to come to my channel. I'm just trying to catch up with everything that's been coming at me this past month. This is quite popular palette, and I think a lot of people would have it already. There is some similarity, but I think this palette is green heavy, and this one kind of have your warm neutrals, your cool neutrals, and some greens. I think there's a little bit of similarity between the green ones, but I don't see a lot of it. I think they kind of resemble each other at first, but I don't think they're very similar, if you were wondering. The very last palette that I wanted to show you, it's something that is my personal favorite. I've used this palette so many times. I got this palette last year, and I think it's just a really good quality palette if you like greens and like warm neutrals. It's not the same palette to Nomad, but I wanted to throw it out there for you as an option. This is a Harvest palette from Revolution, Makeup Revolution. This was launched last year. I kind of want to put them side by side. Yes, it's not the same. Like I said, it's not the same palette. This palette has really easy to work with mattes and beautiful greens. Shimmer in this formula is really, really pretty. There are even some cream formulas here. So I think they are somewhat similar. Like the look that I'm wearing today, somewhat you will be able to create with this palette. It's not going to be identical as far as the neutral portion of it goes. The greens, I think you will be able to recreate very, very similar looks with this. This is a very affordable palette. I think it's like $10. So just something for you to consider to give you some options of different price ranges. Before I reveal the surprise for you in this video, let me give you my first impression, final thoughts on the Nomad Okavango Safari palette. I love this color story. I'm a huge neutrals lover. I think the safari theme was captured to its perfection in this palette. This was my first time trying Nomad formula of the eyeshadow, and I have to say that the mattes are quite impressive. I love that there is a good pigment. The shades blended by themselves really easily, blended into each other easily. I didn't experience any patchiness. I think because the mattes are so easy to work with, if you love matte looks, I think this would be a good palette for that. As far as the shimmers, I feel like there are different formulas within this palette. These two shades I started hitting hard pan on. Like these two shades, they were a little bit more like softer and textury. These were a little bit more hotter pressed, as well as this one. This shade was slightly bit different. It was kind of like that medium softness. It was not like any of the other ones that I just mentioned, but it also had like glitter particles in them. Well, I think all of them look beautiful and nice. There was just a little bit more fallout on this softer shades. I've already also worn this behind the camera, and I did not experience any fading throughout the day. So I think all the colors stay put, and also didn't experience any creasing with the shimmers. I think this is a beautiful palette. I think I'm more impressed with the mattes than with shimmer formula. However, everything still performs and wears well and pretty easy to work with. I'm definitely excited to have this palette in my collection now, and I am definitely going to be trying more from the brand in the future. So when I purchased my palette, I purchased it on a launch date, and I knew I was going to be buying it when I first saw the palette on a preview. And then when palette was delivered to me, I started filming with it right away. And then several days after, I did receive a PR package from Nomad. So I reached out to Nomad team and asked him if I could do a giveaway for you guys, because I already had my own palette that I purchased. So today I do have a giveaway for you guys. So one of these palettes will go to one of you. The details how to enter my giveaway to win the Nomad Okavango Safari palette will be for you in the info box. This sums up my video. I hope you enjoy makeup look tutorials. Let me know which one you like the most. Did you get inspired? I want to know if you've already picked up this palette, what you think of the color story, and if you're excited to participate in my giveaway. Just make sure to check out all the details in the info box. And if you enjoy makeup look tutorials and dedicated video to certain eyeshadows, I will leave the playlist at the end of this video. If you enjoyed watching this video, found it helpful and inspirational, give this a big thumb up. If you're not yet a subscriber, I invite you to do so before you leave. And thanks so much for watching, hanging out with me today, and I will see you in my next videos. Bye.